Hello and welcome to season 2020, episode 21 of the Pecino Report, the podcast that gets past the hype and talks about what's really going on in the MotoGP paddock. Well, whoever said that racing at the same track 2 weeks in a row is boring has well and truly been proven wrong. Just when we thought we may have seen the back of crazy, unpredictable drama, we have another red flag, burning Yamahas, and satellite teams walking all over their big factory brothers. Andra, how's that annual lawn bowl subscription working out for you, my dear?
Stuff the lawn bowls. I'm good. Do you know what? I was so impressed, and I feel like I jinxed Maverick because I texted the group and went, "Oh my god, No one's fallen off yet."
And what was my response?
He was like, "No." Next minute.
Yeah. Crazy.
So I will never. I'm sorry. I'll never say that again.
Oh, fantastic.
I'm excited for a couple weeks break because I feel like my heart and head needs a rest, but I'm also just like, come on, bring it on. What's next? What's going to happen? Because it's so unpredictable. And we've had some pre-recording chats that it's got me crazy excited, and I think the listeners are going to be a bit excited. We've got some doozies coming out tonight.
They are. Speaking of doozies, it's over to El Jefe himself, Mr. GP, Mr. Pecino GP.
Hello, good evening there in Australia. Oh, yes, look, we have spoken between us that we should keep this podcast within the 40 minutes. But how can we?
Nope.
How can we? with all these things happening, how can we? We have to do then three different podcasts. So let's go full gas on it, because if not, your son who edits this, Stu, will have a hard time.
We'll have a hard time. Oh, amazing. All right, so let's kick off. First of all, straight away, Marquez. Let's talk about Marquez. Boss,
oh yes, look,
it's.
I think the most important news was about somebody who has not been in Austria in the last 2 weeks. So it's incredible, no? Mm-hmm. Because after some weeks of complete informative darkness, finally somebody had decided that to communicate is better than to be silent. Because remember, after the first operation, it was transmitted almost Facebook Live every minute about Marquez. No, we saw him.
Crazy. He was doing push-ups and
hang on. Before the push-ups, we saw him getting out of the surgery room. We saw him arriving on a private plane in Jerez. We saw him with the push-ups. We saw him in the gym. We just
didn't see him opening windows.
And we didn't see him doing this and other things, private things. But the rest, it was like a constant live showing. And after what happened, suddenly lockdown. No videos on social media, no this, nothing, no official, no news about how he was, his stuff was evolving. So, and what is this? Look, when you apply this policy, what you create is a rumorology. Right? Suddenly all types of rumors come out about his real how his arm really is, then they came out that the doctors were the ones who were guilty of what happens and so on. And I tell you something, rumors that came out from his own circle and even from the team, not official statements, but they started to spread rumors.
Do you think is that initially I figured all those things that were going on was a bit of a psych out for the other riders going, oh no, he's coming back.
That's what it seemed like.
But I can't work out this latest.
I don't think so. Well, probably yes. Probably the idiot of Alberto Puig did it with this reason, you know. But look, for example, the matter about the doctors. For me, it was sounding so unfair because I tell you, the very close hardcore of Marquez was spreading the doctors, it was a doctor's mistake and this and this. And as the doctors, by his, how do you say, they can't speak about their people.
Exactly. No? It's all private. They can't talk about that. So they don't have an avenue to come back and respond.
Exactly, like the lawyers do and so on. And meanwhile, there was no official statement, but they were thrown into the mud. So Marquez came the other day out and, well, they explained finally that he will need between 2 and 3 months of recovery. Then he says something that I think was pretty fair and that has put Marquez, for me, one step higher in my how do you say, respect for him, because he said, okay, yes, it was a make from the doctors and an error from the doctors. It was
So it wasn't him riding and doing silly things.
No, he said,
should have been
look,
resting?
the doctors did a mistake by two things. Probably by implanting what they implanted. And then he said very clear, I didn't do anything but what the doctors tell me that I could do. Okay. So he put the blame on the blame on them. But then he said, I still trust them and I'm still working with them because I have been treated by them so many times and everything went
Trust him with your life.
went okay. He said, we all do one mistake.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard that statement. He was saying Dr. Mir especially, he trusts.
Yeah, he
still
said
trusts Dr.
exactly.
Mir,
Who doesn't has a mistake in his CV, you know? So because I know that his environment and also some of his sponsors, they pushed strongly for him to leave Dr. Mir and go to other doctors. But in this, he has been very loyal, let's say, no? Okay? And this for me is a very plus for Marquez. Okay.
Yeah.
Then to do it quickly, 2-3 months. He said also, I will try to return before the end of the season to try myself, to test myself. And I would say that our listeners, should write down Aragon Grand Prix as a possible return. Okay, we will have 2 Grand Prix in Aragon, I think in October. I think that this is the date they are thinking about.
Right.
So who did his second surgery, Dr. Mir?
Yes, the same Dr. Mir. Yes,
Okay.
they put a smaller plate and this and this and that. But Marquez was correct, explained some things, but as far as I know, he wasn't totally... He didn't lie because he didn't say it. This is the, but he
This is
wasn't...
the journalist coming out.
But he didn't explain everything what happened. Look, I can say that the problem of Marquez is not his humerus, right?
The humerus bone.
Humerus, not his... how do you say?
Shoulder.
No, not his shoulder.
The humerus bone in your arm.
The bone he broke in his arm. It's not the shoulder that he went through a surgery in winter. The problem is on his wrist.
Really?
Yes. How can he has a severe problem on his wrist?
Yeah.
Well, we can speculate, and I think we are not far from the reality. It has something to do with motocross, probably. And not with opening a window.
Yeah, what's the window thing about? What was that about?
That was a distraction, I think.
Because the official version was that his plate broke by stress by opening a window.
Oh, but he just rode a big motorbike
You just rode a
after
motocross
surgery,
bike.
but I think it was the window.
I think there is
That's
no comment worth about that. Okay, so this is
There
the
you go.
reality of Marquez, and then obviously the headline is Marquez is out. MotoGP looks for a new king, and this takes us to the crazy season that we are assisting.
Yeah, it brings us to point 2. 5 races, 4 winners. When was the last time we saw that? This is crazy.
I've never seen it before.
You can honestly say, Andrea, in your entire MotoGP history, you've never seen it before.
But even I, of the conversations we've had, the tracks that suit the bikes, the strong riders, I was expecting same track, same winner.
Yeah.
No, but look, I think we didn't see anything like this either, Stu, because probably it never happened. At least it never happened that a South African won the Grand Prix, and it never happened that a Portuguese rider won the Grand Prix, which has been the case in the last 3 weeks. So
It's been fantastic.
we are in a completely weird situation, and there are so many things to talk about this. Look, for example, we have seen, or we are watching, how the two brands that normally have that have ruled the championship since
Completely.
49 when it started are now in the back of the package. Yamaha and Honda has been completely overrun like a tsunami by two brands that were supposed to be just something that were on the grid.
They were boutique brands. That's what they were.
And this shows how close MotoGP is, because with the lightest doubt or the lightest problem, this Yamaha and Honda have been overrun, so it's incredible. So it's something amazing that shows how close and how tight everything is without King Mark.
Exactly, yeah. I was looking at the qualifying results and some of the practice results over the weekend. And the guys, I heard the commentators on Sky Sports talking about how close it was and how wonderful it was. And I thought to myself, these numbers, these results, they're not really, besides the KTMs being up there, obviously, and Suzuki doing well. But when you look at the split difference between a lot of these riders, there's not that much difference from what we've seen in years gone by. Exactly as you said, Manuel, the difference is the person on number one isn't a second and a half ahead, and then everybody else is fighting for second and third spot. This is fighting for that top spot on the podium, and there's nobody has really put their hand up and gone, I'm the best, this is my season, no one else is going to win.
Well, no, Stu, the problem is that many things that is their season. So,
it's true.
It's like now or never. And then they go out on the track without saying, wow, this is the opportunity.
Yep.
And I think that's why we are seeing so many crazy things.
Indeed, Andrew.
Well, just that the last, it wasn't even a minute, was it? The finish of that race, where
the last lap was amazing.
Was it? And I don't know if I'm reading this correctly, but Jack sort of took the corner differently, knowing that Pole was right behind him.
Yep.
No, was it Pole? Yeah, Pole or Jack, and then Michael Olive.
Good old Michael Olive.
Oh my God, we just about stood up jumping and screaming, so excited that it was just like, how did that even happen? Where did it come from? It was...
Yeah, because Jack
so good.
Yeah, Jack defended the corner to try, because he knew that Pole was going to try and get him there. So Jack defended the corner, knew Pole was going to come through. So he came in wide, so then he could chop in to push Pole back out wide again. But in doing that, the two of them lost a lot of speed. And so in the meantime, meep, meep, here comes the Roadrunner.
And then, I was expecting Pole. Adam and I were talking. My husband and I were talking about this, because we've been carrying on a bit about Pole being a bit of a sook and whatever. But when that happened, we were like, "Oh my God, wait for this! He's going to be grumpy as all hell." And he was actually, he behaved really well. I was quite impressed, and he went up a little bit for me in respect for him, because he was really happy for the others. And did you say, I didn't see, he went to go to the shed because he thought that he was getting pushed.
Yeah, he thought he was getting pushed. But the comment he made about Mir was really nice. He didn't have to say anything, but he said straight away, this is Mir's weekend.
Sorry.
Mir was the fastest.
I can't resist that much sugar anymore. Look.
Go on.
Was it not genuine?
Genuine?
No?
You know a guy called Judas. So
I went to school.
Okay, let's try. They are more or less at the same level. A guy 2,000 years ago, a guy called Judas. Look,
stabbed his mate in the back. Yeah.
Okay.
I do one question, and please answer me. Do you think that Mr. Pol Espargaró would have said the same if he had won the race?
No.
It
would have been all about him and the team.
He would have stood on the top of the podium and said, "I don't deserve it. It's Mir. Come on."
Yeah.
And he did this because the one who had won was Oliveira.
The one who said he lacked
He had an issue with Oliveira.
Yeah.
And Oliveira, well, at the end, look, please, you are grown up. Don't get into this blah blah blah. There's nothing to do. And he was so pissed off. Look, there has been probably no one in the history of Grand Prix that had so many chances to win a race. Pol Espargaró had one in Brno, he threw it away because he was the fastest rider. 2 races in Austrian Grand Prix, 2 races in Styria Grand Prix. And what happened? 2 of his teammates won. And he has said to Oliveira with this, Oliveira should understand that he is riding the bike that I developed.
That's right, he did too, didn't he?
Yeah.
He's riding my bike is what he said.
Hang on, look my natural laugh. You know? So the two guys who won on his bike, maybe this means that you aren't that good, that you are not able to win with your bike.
I just realised what this does mean. You know who's going to win next week? Making Polly only factory KTM rider.
So look, this is basically what I think about the situation. About Jack at the end of the race, it's funny because what I saw is a MotoGP rider doing motocross maneuver, motocross move.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That was really motocross because Andra, you should have a look at the same race last year when Dovizioso and Marquez arrived at the same point. What did Dovi do? He braked earlier, let Mark go long, and then went inside.
Yep.
Okay.
Instead of this, Paul tried to be the big Spanish macho, to be on the outside, try to outbrake from the outside Miller. Where do you go? So, I know, look, and telling this from outside is very easy. You have to be there in the middle of the battle and the heat of the fight. But Dovizioso, who has an experience, was able to think. Paul was probably overheated, or he didn't watch the previous races from the previous year. What he should have done.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah,
exactly.
So this is the critical point of view, and then we are here. Then we are massacring. Paul. I tell you something more.
Why not?
Hang on.
Bring it on.
No. But you will understand. And look, it looks like that I know everything, but at the end, go back to the second last lap of the race. When Paul goes through the start finish line, you see the guy with the board, right? There is the board, you call it, on the wall. It says 0.0.
Yes.
And the guy is like telling him, accelerate, as if he hasn't given his much in the last 20 laps, Idiot. He really idiot. The reality, if you go to the speed, to the sheets where you see the lap times, when he crosses that line, he had 0.3 advantage over Miller. 0.3. What a rider needs, a MotoGP rider needs with that experience.
Needs accurate information.
Exactly. Stu, information is power.
Exactly. If he knew he had a gap of 0.3, then he could have managed it, as opposed to panicking, thinking he's 0.0. He's right.
No, and I tell you more. Look, he sees 0.0. If you go to the last lap, he starts closing doors, doing defensive lines in corner number 3.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Where he loses, by doing this, he loses the advantage.
Yeah.
If he knew, he could start to be defensive further on.
Yeah.
You understand? So at the end, look, I am not smarter than anybody, but I have eyes and I have experience and I look at the things. But, by 0.3 is a lot. It's a lot. It's very different from 0.0. And you know why these things happen? I tell you something more. Look, normally, in a MotoGP race, the things that happen from the half of the field back is completely different what happens from the half to the front. The dynamic of the things that happen are very different, because the riders aren't as good as the one who are in the front. So when you make the jump from the second group to the first group, you have to understand the dynamic of what's going on in the front. That is different. So different. And this is exactly what happened with KTM. The lack of experience of knowing that the board is absolutely vital information.
That's what I was going to ask you. Is it a result of the inexperience of KTM?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And as I have seen this, I imagine somebody in the garage have seen this, and this won't happen again.
If they're listening to the Pecino report, then yeah, they will.
If they're doing 300 kilometers an hour, how quickly do they have to get that on the board to stick it out so it's accurate enough for when they go past?
It's the team. The team has to realize how to do this. You know, it's down to the team. They can do this before, when they are in T4, they start to do. They have people on the track, you know, and they are connected. Yeah. This is not the problem of the rider. The team has to solve this. And look, the difference of not doing it is to lose the race. So they have, is it important or not? So they have to do it. They have to find a way to do it.
Exactly.
Do they only hold the boards out for the first few riders?
No, everyone has his board.
Everyone's got their own.
It's the only information they have.
Yep.
All right.
Wow.
So we have killed Paul Espargaro already.
We have.
We stuck our fingers in his eyes, didn't we?
Put him.
Do we want to talk some more about KTM, or do we want to talk about Michael Olive a little bit, or have we had enough KTM?
No, we have to, because we have to talk about KTM, because they have been the big stars of the last two Grand Prix. Okay, they have shown that they have done an incredible and unexpected step forward. Okay, I had the chance to talk with Dani Pedrosa, and he was very sincere to me. He said, look, we know that we will be very competitive on some tracks, and we won't be that good on other tracks, and we know on which tracks we are going to be. This said, now you have to read between the lines, and this means exactly what? This means we will be extreme competitive at the places where we have tested.
Yes.
Before the Grand Prix. And this was Brno, this was Austria, and attention, our listeners, at this very moment, now, exactly at this moment, Pedrosa is riding in Misano.
Really?
So KTM is preparing the two races in Misano. So they will be there again. Then probably in Aragon they won't, and so on. But KTM, they are so excited, and obviously it's understandable that they are testing today, while the others probably are on the beach. KTM, the Austrians are testing in Misano.
Nice.
Oh my God.
Good on them.
Go Ika.
Do you think even if they don't get a rider championship, they're looking for a constructor championship this year?
Look, dear listeners, dos puntos, point. If you want to know what is KTM aiming, have a read on pecinogp.com, because I did an interview with Mike Leitner, who is the manager of the KTM MotoGP team, and basically he said, once you win, your goal is higher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's said. When an Austrian or German says this, you have to start to tremble.
Look out, Poland! Here we come.
Brilliant.
Oh wow, wonderful. So that is really interesting. Okay, so yeah, listeners, get yourselves over to Pecino GP as soon as possible to read more of Manuel's interview with Mike Leitner. Excellent, very good.
And sorry, I have to say this.
Yeah.
I can't resist. I wrote another story that I have to translate in English, but it will be there in a few hours, talking about. The headline is more or less, there is a giant inside KTM, and this giant is about 1.60 meters high.
Yeah.
And this giant is their test rider, Dani Pedrosa, right? And as a journalist, I went through the files,
Yep.
and I saw, how do you say, declaración, words of the president of HRC a couple of years ago saying to Pedrosa, listen, you are too small. We don't think you can do the job as a test rider for Marquez and Jorge Lorenzo.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
That's brilliant. Yep.
So I think that the new king of MotoGP is Dani Pedrosa.
Well,
somehow,
behind
yes.
the scenes.
Yep.
But it's amazing. You know, if you have nothing interesting to say, it's always better to keep your mouth closed.
Yep. Yep. So he's like the puppet master behind the scenes, pulling the strings.
Imagine what he has, because he's very, how do you say, discreet. You know, discreet. You say in English. So no word about this. He doesn't need. Here I am to tell the story.
Yep. And I think you said last week, Manuel, that he's feeling like he's winning these races, even though he's not the one on there. Like, it's so good to hear he's getting that payback, I suppose, or that reward and acknowledgement that he's part of it.
Can you imagine what's behind his smile?
Yeah. Oh, so definitely. Good. Bloody brilliant.
Indeed. So the next point we wanted to have a quick chat about is crazy Spanish people who have an urge to jump off motorcycles at 220 kilometers an hour. What are you putting in the water over there, Manuel? What's going on?
But did you see that he jumps off the bike at 220 and then stands up like, hey, I just arrived here. Hey, what happened?
Brushes himself off as if he's going to go and catch a bus.
It looks so. Any of us would be destroyed if we stand up, and it would be destroyed for a month. So for him, it was just, what happened? What happened?
Must be Sunday.
But I was trying to go through my head. I'm like, right, he obviously, and I know we've spoken about this, how quick and how lucid the riders have to be, but he would have gone, oh shit, I've got no brakes. I need to get off. There's people behind me. Like, all those things to... Yep. Like, I can't
probably,
and he did it perfectly.
And Andra, my mom is watching.
Better phone her as soon as I've gotten off.
And it was just the perfect dismount for the situation.
Yeah, no, and the fact, obviously they think at the same speed they are traveling, you know, and after the race, it was like, Maverick, you fall off the bike at 220. Said, what do you want me to do? To stay on the bike?
Yeah. Exactly. So what happened with the brakes? Just
look, this creates another polemic, right? Because it looks like that the things on the track are so interesting that they have to look for polemics outside. Look, the story with Maverick, basically, we all know that his brakes failed, right? But the same way, all other Yamaha had brakes problems. All
they did. We saw when they were coming back into the pit with Quartararo and Rossi.
Yeah,
Quartararo
went, how's your brakes?
Reached over and went, hey, how are your brakes? Yeah.
Okay. They are talking about, and probably it's true, that Maverick chose a small caliper because it was better for his handling and his turning and so on. Maybe. But all had problems. And it's not a coincidence, and at least this is how I see it, that the one who crashed, who completely ran off, was the one who was in front of all the Yamahas, who was riding more heated up.
I was going to say hotter. Yeah,
hotter.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly. More hotter. You know, it's not casual. You have to look at the things, you know, because you can just watch or try to understand what's happening. So Maverick ran out ran out of brakes, and he was the one who was pushing more. The other one did manage their brake problems. Yep. Okay. Another point that came out, and that is something to be discussed about, is what Alex Rins complained after the race. He said, hang on, if Maverick had problems since the beginning with the brakes, why didn't he get into the garage? Because he was putting in danger himself and the rest of
all
us.
the guys around him. That's right. Yeah.
Alex Marquez, after the race, his quotes were quite funny. He said, "Look, I was so scared because I was riding behind Maverick, and at a certain moment he braked very early, and I almost ran in him. The other one, so it was like." Scary, right? Because I didn't never know.
Especially after last weekend. That's
I didn't know what's going to happen in the next corner. So this is another point of discussion. Hang on, Maverick, you put in danger all your colleagues, apart from himself, okay? Because he was the one who jumped off the bike in 2020. You know. So it's a point to be discussed. And I am sure this will be discussed in the safety, in the riders' meeting in the next Grand Prix.
For sure. Is there any truth in the rumours of Yamaha turning their engines down after the valve problems they've been having? Because they're getting less and less competitive, and especially just between the 2 weeks. Like we say, the race last weekend versus the race before at the same track, same bike, even less competitive. It's like they've turned them down 500 RPM or something.
Oh yes, this is another story. I could speak about this 3/4 of an hour, easy. But let's go quickly. Look, yes, Yamaha, as we know, have problems with their engine, and these problems are caused by problem on the valves system. Okay. At the previous Grand Prix, in the Austrian Grand Prix, Yamaha went to the Motorcycle Manufacturer Association to ask them the permission to open that engines and change the pieces that were wrong. You know, they say that a certain supplier had mistaken in the way they build these valves. In that committee, Honda was very, very, very harsh against Yamaha. Honda basically said no. Suzuki was gentle. Ducati was just looking at the rule, you know, up.
Ducati were off in the corner just making a coffee and just having fun.
An espresso.
Exactly.
Macchiato, espresso, cappuccino, whatever. Okay, then what happened? So they imposed them a certain conditions, like, well, to show us what was wrong and this and this and that. So Yamaha 6 days later, they announced that they were taking back their
request.
Their request, exactly. Their request, saying two things: that they could not provide the proofs that the other manufacturer wanted, but in their words, because the engineers in Japan had discovered how to overcome the problems they had with the valves.
Turn the engine down 500 RPM. Done.
Or they spoke about the pressure, the pressure of the valve system. You know, well, whatever. The reality is that the Yamaha have not been slower than they are now ever. That's the problem. You know, so they have a real problem. And by the way,
do you think that's it for the year for Yamaha? You think because they can't recover from this overnight, can they? And they're not going to get that top speed back overnight. So
well, I don't know if it's true what the Yamaha officially says about their engineers. Which, why should they lie? I always say the same. Why should they lie? They can fix the story. But look at this. Remember that the bike of Maverick just hit the wall and start to burn. If his engine has been, got a problem or has some issue, he has lost another problem. Then he will have a problem.
Yeah.
Because that's another. They've lost that bike, and they.
Yeah, but the bike is okay, but the engine normally shouldn't have had a problem. Shouldn't. No. We don't know how much it has affected the engine. The other bike, it's like a puzzle. The other bike, they can.
That's a paperweight.
No, maybe they can, with the pieces of Zarco's bike and his, maybe they can do a mini bike together. No.
Melt it down and create a new one.
Okay, moving on. The next point, Suzuki and Honda. Yeah, let's talk about Suzuki first.
Oh, Suzuki and Honda, day and night. We start with the day or with the night?
Oh, let's start with the night. Let's start with the Honda. Come on. Yeah, why
Okay,
not?
the Honda look. Dear listeners, 2 points.
Yeah.
Period.
Dear listeners, don't buy a Honda.
No, no. Well, no, absolutely not. The street Honda is the bike to be bought.
Yeah.
But, dear listeners, period. Go to the championship standing and have a look at the end, at the bottom.
Yeah.
There are 2 riders that have 0 points. Stu, are you looking at?
I'm just bringing up the world standings now. It's
There
not
are-
pretty.
There are 2 riders at the very bottom with 0 points. Obviously, one is Marc Marquez, and
Stefan
the other
Bradl.
one, Stu,
Stefan Bradl.
who rides Marc Marquez bike. So,
Yeah.
Well, I think Honda has a small problem with his how do you say reference rider out of the game. So Honda is very complicated. They had a kind of a sunshine during the weekend with Nakagami, right?
Yeah. How
That
good
was doing
Tackett?
very
Yeah,
well,
for the first
and
bit. Very good.
and Viñales, I think he did it on purpose. Viñales took away probably the first podium of Nakagami
career.
because with
Yeah.
Viñales crash, the red flag came out, and the race was neutralized. So
Yep.
in the second race, Nakagami had no chance. So it was
Yeah.
probably the most frustrating moment for Nakagami and for Honda that could have shown something. But now Honda really, it's amazing in the situation they are. It's absolutely amazing.
It is.
Can I say quickly, like watching, I feel like there's been a change in Alex Marquez though. Like without Mark being there, I feel like I don't know if it's because I'm paying more attention to him because he's not being overshadowed by his brother, but he seems a little bit more switched on and a bit more confident. I don't know. I thought had my husband explain to me how he's been
think
brought in onto this big bike, so he's got challenges regardless.
He's just going about his business.
Look
it
at
seems.
Manuel's face.
Yeah.
Hey, just
Edra,
remember, I'm here to
it's
bring the other side.
Switch off your mother mode when you talk about riders. Switch off your mother. Poor him,
can't help it.
sweetheart Alex. Switch off. It's not here no.
Oh, fantastic.
No. Look, Alex is just doing his job, and obviously he would prefer his brother be alongside to teach him some things, which I think he does on the phone every time. But when Marquez appeared on that interview before the race, one of the things he said, "Oh yes, my brother is progressing, but it's time for him to step forward." So Mark was merciless with his brother. Okay, Andra.
Good.
But
Is he not riding better? Is he not?
of
riding
course he's
better
riding
without Mark?
better. He's learning. Imagine.
Yep.
He has he rides much better than in Jerez, probably.
So
but
I'm not incorrect in what I said.
no, obviously not. Hang on. Then, what would you say about Iker Lecuona, who has finished in top 10 in the last races
Well, he's clearly improved because he's finished 2 races in a row now.
and in top 10?
In top 10. That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Oh my God, yes.
yes, so it's not
Improvers.
only Marquez who is suffering.
Yep. It's all in you guys.
Yeah.
Okay. Suzuki.
Okay.
Let's
Suzuki,
talk about
wow.
Suzuki.
Let's
Suzuki.
move on.
Suzuki, fantastic. Suzuki, fantastic.
When did he fry that extra tire? Was that during one of the practice sessions? He chose to fit an extra set
I
of
think
tires? or-
I think I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, Stu. Correct me if I am. I think he went out to the race with the same tire he did in the first race.
He did, that's right. But yeah, what I'm saying is everybody else changed their tire because they had a new tire. But I thought Simon Crafar was saying that he didn't have any new front tires left.
What did
So
we
he must have
speak?
used it during one of the practice sessions.
What did we speak about KTM and the board? Inexperience.
Inexperience, yeah.
Inexperience. So I think we can use this also for the Suzuki team, right?
It's a learning experience.
After what happened the previous weekend, when so many riders ran off tires in the second race.
Yep.
Shouldn't they have? Okay, it's something that happens very rarely, but it happens, and in this case, it happened twice in a row. So they should have had a spare tire in the garage.
Exactly.
Lack of experience, but a part of this, look, Mir was by far, and it's not because Paul Espargaro said it. Sorry. The best the best rider on that weekend. He had the
100%.
first race was his. He was, I think he had an advantage of 2 seconds when
Something
he
like
stopped
that,
the
yeah.
race.
Yeah.
And he was very strong. The Suzuki is an incredible bike, and this takes us, that was not on the script, to another question marks too. Is it fair that when they interrupt the race, they start from zero, or should they apply the advantage they
Total
had?
time.
Total
Yep.
time. If Mir on the second race would start with these 2 seconds, he would have won that complete Grand Prix.
Yeah.
You understand? Is it fair? Is it fair? And another thing, how fair is it that when they interrupt the race, they go into the garage and change the bikes? Why don't put them?
Leave it as is.
Should
Yes,
be closed.
put
Same
them-
as with F1. Everything should be closed.
Exactly.
New tyres? No, you can't have new tyres. You have
changes
you
the
were, you
whole
were going to do
play.
25 laps on those tyres. You can
Exactly.
do 25 laps on those
And
tyres.
I tell you something more. We are not talking about something imaginarius, no, something that we just imagine. You just watch the BSB, the British Superbike. When there is an issue, the pace car comes out. When the issue is that big that they have to get in, leave the track, they are all in an area where they stay there with the
Closed
bikes
off.
as they are, and then they go out. So we have a place where it works. You understand? The problem is, and this is, I think, my opinion, but I think I heard it at the time, is that Dorna at the point thought that for the people who follow the races, it's very complicated to understand where is everyone in the second race. So the one who is leading may be not the winner. So then they decided, okay, we make it simple. But it's simple, but probably not fair.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, definitely. I agree. And I agree with you when you say that Mir was easily the best rider on that weekend. That him and that bike were incredible. I sent a message out to some of the people I was contacting during the race. And at one point I'd said, Mir is perfection right now. And
Yes.
he was
And
perfection.
Stu, you see how he was riding, his riding style. There was no... It was the anti-riding style of Jack Miller, you know.
Yes,
Everything,
yeah.
no movement, everything smooth. Jack is like riding on a motocross track. Here, there, slides, wheelies. He was like, pss, 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 pss.
Jack in a turn 3 every time.
Yeah,
just backing it in. It was good to watch. Beautiful. Okay, in the interest of time, the last point, Ducati. You've got something you want to tell us about Ducati, I believe, boss.
Before exploding the balloon, let's have a quick look about Ducati. Look, everyone is talking about Dovi. It's right. Dovi with his calm, with his experience, with not getting poisoned by all this excitement that goes around him. He's second in the championship, 3 points behind the leader.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who isn't going to do much better this season by the looks of it?
But,
We don't know, but now Dovi is doing what he always does. He takes out the maximum with the less effort. This is something that probably should, the maximum with the less effort should be written in the back of his leathers. That's Dovi, how he has raced all his life. So there's
in
no
his
new.
bigger leathers. Yeah.
But, okay, Dovi is there, but we have to give a lot of credit to Jack Miller,
Oh, completely.
Jack,
successful weekend
look,
for him at third.
No,
and
but
second.
not only this. Jack is the only rider who has been on the both podiums of the 2 Grand Prix held in Austria. The only
Actually,
one.
he's probably the most. He's the most consistent rider this season.
And
moment.
saying this from Jack is strange. But at the same time, remember and have a look, he was the only rider who was at the front in the 2 races held on Sunday.
Yeah.
In both. The only one.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's got that whole shot device working really, really well. Both starts, Jack got a fantastic start. That was really good.
Yeah, and he, because Jack is a character that doesn't let you, or you like him or you dislike him. It's never neutral. And there are people who say, now you see, yes, Jack has done this step forward, which it looks like. Others say, but he's still the crazy rider. And So, but the truth and the reality are the results. And Jack is showing what Ducati expects of him.
He's showing the maturity to step up to the factory team next year, yeah.
But it's also true that it has happened in a Ducati track, 100% Ducati track.
Yeah.
So it will be very interesting. It will be like an exam for Jack to see what is capable to perform in the 2 races in Misano. There we can see if Jack is what he is showing. You understand?
Yep.
Okay.
Definitely.
Now 55 minutes. Okay, time to explode the balloon.
Break the internet, Manuel.
Everybody needs to fast forward to this bit.
No, look, yesterday night I got the message that points very seriously that Jorge Lorenzo is returning to Ducati. Which is this point?
What?
Which I'm not going to reveal the source, that a journalist never can, but I explain you the situation. You know that all riders have an assistant, right? The one who carries the helmet, who takes the leathers to the We call
Is that
them
the pretty girls or they're different people?
no, girls no.
It's a brolly girl.
Yeah, there's not. What happened to all the pretty girls? I start watching and they're all gone.
Claro.
They knew you were coming. That's what it was.
I don't know. Maybe they no, I say that.
They banned
Okay.
him. Yeah.
Okay. No. There is. They all have an assistant who is normally the person of trust. Okay, the one.
Yeah.
Papi, who takes the helmet, who this and this and this and that. So Lorenzo had one who he dismissed obviously at the end of last year, telling him that he should look for another job. And this guy is now the assistant of Nakagami.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And it looks like he got a phone call from his ex-boss
Right.
asking him if he would return with him to Ducati next year.
Wow.
Dun.
That is huge. So, what, test rider or actual full factory rider?
No,
are we talking?
test rider. He doesn't need an assistant to be a test rider.
No,
No,
exactly.
that's
That's
right.
right.
Test rider don't have assistants. It's for the full factory rider. But this is what I got. Okay, so how do you say it's not? It's
It's not
not
confirmed.
exactly,
It's not
but
set in
it's
stone.
in Spanish we say indicio. It's something that shows that something is happening. You know,
Yep. Yep.
that reveals.
It's an
What would that
indication.
mean?
Yep.
What would that mean for the roll-on for the other teams then?
Yeah,
What would
yeah.
that
for, for the
nothing?
the Avintia and Pramac teams,
Well,
yeah.
Okay, nothing.
Because they were talking about like Bastianini possibly coming up from Moto 2, and like Jorge Martin's supposed to be coming up as well. So
No, Jorge
smoking
Martin.
broccoli.
Jorge Martin will arrive, and he's showing what he should have shown before. But now he is strong. Okay, we have seen him
He had a
doing
great
a
weekend.
fantastic race.
Yep.
Look, quickly. The worst situation for a rider, the very worst situation for a rider, is when you are leading, and you see your gap like 1.0, 0.9, 0.8. This is for a rider the worst situation he can get in. It's a pressure that nobody can imagine. And he managed it so well. You know?
True, yeah, very
He
true.
managed
does
well,
manage his
and
gaps
he
very,
won that
very well,
race. They just stole that race from him.
Yeah.
But he won that race. Okay, now going back to Ducati in MotoGP. Look, I think that we have Jack Miller confirmed in the official factory team, right? Probably the Pramac team will be Martin and Pecco Bagnaia. And if if we could give credit to my source, Jack would be alongside Jorge Lorenzo.
Wow. So that leaves Zarco still in the Avintia team?
I can imagine, yes.
Possibly, yep.
Zarco is doing very well, Zarco is doing very well. And if this crazy move, bringing back Lorenzo, which I think is absolutely crazy, Zarco could be a perfect option because he's riding very good and very fast.
Wow. And on that bombshell, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I think it has been quite interesting and pushing.
It's absolutely incredible. Andra, did you want to say some things before we head off?
I do need to stretch it out just a few minutes, if I may. I've just wanted to give social media shout outs to Michael, my chiropractor. I was chatting to him the other day and we talk about F1 and Moto3, MotoGP, and I'm like, are you telling people to listen to the podcast? And he said, I listened to it. It's like, oh my God. So I wanted to give him a shout out.
G'day, Michael, the chiropractor.
I was trying to shut up so he could crack my back because I'm like, also want to give a shout out to Sub and his son Buddy, who's a huge KTM fan. That's his 6-year-old son. I've seen some awesome videos of him cranking it out in the back paddock. They live near Melbourne.
Go the Orange Army.
He posed a question to us that I did send to the group, but I know Manuel is very busy on weekends, to do with something that was mentioned last week.
Yeah,
I'll hand that over to you, Stu. You can explain it because I'll probably get it wrong.
Sure. So we spoke last week about we massacred Zarco last week. It's fair to say, and we spoke last week about him having form and other things he'd done in the past. And Manuel and I spoke about an event of him reaching over to grab another rider's brake lever during a race quite a while ago, back in 2011, I think. And then afterwards, as Andrew says, we received some mail that said, "Hey, wasn't that Romano Fenati?" Because that was the big one that was publicised. And I even started to doubt myself. I was like, "Hang on a minute, was I maybe getting it mixed up?" But no, of course, the boss, being the boss, knew exactly what he was talking about, and he sent us some video footage, so we might be able to put it up to the gram later through the week. So it was 4th of September 2011. It was Zarco versus Nicole Tirol at the San Marino Grand Prix, 125s, and just coming over the finish line, Zarco came onto the straight first, and Tirol was slipstreaming him, came past him, and as they went to go over the finish line, Tirol overtook him, and Zarco reached out to try and grab his lever or bang his bike or something. He reached out in much the same way that Fenati did. It was it was weird. It was just weird.
Did he get banned after that?
Fenati is gone. He was sacked instantly. He lost his ride for the following year as well.
Yeah,
and rightly so. Yeah.
No, this was different. This was just meters before the finish line.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's okay.
Yep.
No, I don't know.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, that's okay then. Indeed.
But anyway, yeah. So, all right. Thank you so much. I'll send that through to Sub and we'll post it on social media so people can have a look. But again, everyone, you can find our podcast on Spotify, Apple, on the interweb, on what other podcast platforms are there? I don't know.
Everywhere there's a podcast. Your favorite pod farm. You can find us.
But please share, rate us, share us, tell your mates about us, message us. The list goes on.
Please do. Engage with us. Give us 5-star ratings wherever you go. If you think we're worthy of 5 stars. If not, send us a message and tell me what we can do to improve.
And we accept also check with a lot of zeros.
We do. The zeros after the number, not before the number.
I'll take beer. I'm happy to be paid in beer.
Okay.
Indeed. And Manuel, where can they find all the latest MotoGP news?
Like always, pecinogp.com. There, the crime goes on.
Indeed, it does.
He continues
it's been wonderful.
to poke his fingers in the rider's eyes.
He sure does, and rightly so. So he should. He asks the difficult questions. So that's it for another week, ladies and gentlemen. We've got a couple of weeks off from the racing. So the content next week will be slightly less frantic and maybe a little bit calmer. Who knows? But till then, you guys look after yourselves out there. Have a fantastic week and stay upright, stay safe. Thank you. Ciao.
Bye bye. Adios.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
See ya. G'day, mate.